It is 9:47 p.m. You are standing in a bathroom in Kyoto, and something is off. Not wrong, exactly. Not broken. Just off. The way a room feels when it has been arranged by someone who thought carefully about something you have never once thought about. The light is low, lower than you would have chosen. A warm amber that comes from somewhere near the floor, not overhead. The kind of light that makes things look the way they look, on the last day of summer, when the sun has already decided to leave, but hasn't quite made it to the door yet. There is a deep ceramic tub against the wall, not long and shallow the way yours is, deep, designed for sitting upright, for being submerged, for being held by the water rather than lying on top of it. Steam rises from the surface in slow, unhurried columns. The room smells of nothing in particular. Water, wood, the faint mineral warmth of something old. You sit on the low wooden stool beside the tub. You wash before you enter, as is the custom here. Rinse, and then you lower yourself in. The water is warm enough that your body registers it before your mind does. Something at the base of your spine, something at the back of your neck, something in the muscles you have been holding since approximately 8 a.m., all of it lets go at approximately the same moment. You do not have your phone. You do not have your phone because it is in the other room, where it has been for the last hour and 20 minutes. And you did not miss it for even a second after the first 10 minutes. And the first 10 minutes were harder than you expected and much easier than you feared. You are in this room. The water is this temperature. The light is this color. And something is happening to you that is not relaxation. Not exactly. It is something more specific than that. Something with a name in the language of the body that your body has been waiting all day to say. You do not know yet what tomorrow morning will feel like, but your nervous system has already begun to write it. For 6 months, you have been trying to fix your mornings. You set the glass of water by the bed. You put the phone face down. You opened the window before the coffee. You walked before you ran. You did everything the morning asked of you, and some mornings it worked, and some mornings it didn't. And you could never quite understand why the same routine produced such different results on different days. Here is what no one told you. The morning does not begin when the alarm goes off. The morning does not begin when you open your eyes, or when your feet find the floor, or when the first light crosses the windowsill. The morning begins the night before. Specifically, it begins in the 3 hours before you fall asleep, in the light you chose, in the screens you touched, in the temperature of the room, in the last thing your nervous system encountered before it was asked to rest. There is a woman who wakes up every morning at 5:51 a.m. with a clarity that most people spend their entire lives pursuing in the wrong direction. In better alarm clocks, stronger coffee, more willpower, earlier bedtimes, she does not pursue it. She has never needed to. Because she does not spend her mornings trying to recover from her nights. She spends her nights preparing for her mornings. And the 5 things she does between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. every single evening are the reason that a glass of warm water and 5 minutes of morning light are enough. Are the reason the cortisol curve lands softly instead of spiking. Are the reason her shoulders drop the moment she walks into her kitchen rather than 2 hours later, if at all. You have been building a morning routine. She built a night routine first. Stay with this. Because what happens in the hours before sleep is not preparation for rest. It is the calibration of everything that follows. Here is the mechanism most people have never been told. The cortisol awakening response, the hormone spike that rises within 30 minutes of waking, that determines whether your morning feels like surfacing or like drowning, is not generated fresh each day. It is calibrated the night before, by your sleep, by the depth of it, the architecture of it, the quality of the REM cycles that either did or did not complete while you lay still in the dark. Dr. Matthew Walker, the neuroscientist and sleep researcher at UC Berkeley, has spent decades documenting what sleep deprivation and poor sleep quality do to the hormonal systems of the human body. His finding, consistent across hundreds of studies, the relationship between sleep and cortisol is bidirectional. Elevated cortisol at night delays and fragments sleep. Fragmented sleep elevates morning cortisol. Each feeds the other and feeds it hard. What this means in practice: the person who lies in bed scrolling their phone until midnight, then wakes at 6 a.m., feeling unrested, then drinks coffee immediately to compensate, then experiences an afternoon crash, then reaches for sugar, then lies in bed at 11 p.m., scrolling again, That person is not experiencing a willpower failure. They are experiencing a hormonal loop that begins and ends in the same place, every single night, and has nothing to do with discipline. But here is the other half of what Dr. Walker's research shows. When sleep is deep, structured, and protected, when the REM cycle's complete, when the body is allowed to descend through the full architecture of restoration, the cortisol awakening response the next morning is measurably lower, cleaner, and shorter in duration, not absent, because cortisol in the morning is not the enemy, but contained, proportionate. The body wakes into alertness rather than into alarm. The difference between these two mornings is not made at 6 a.m., it is made at 9 p.m. There are 5 things Japan has understood about the hours before sleep that the rest of the world is only beginning to measure. 5 decisions made each evening, so quietly they barely register as choices at all. And the last one, the one most people think is too simple to matter, is the one that ties the other 4 together. Here is what those 5 decisions look like from the inside. The phone is in the other room. It has been there for 1 hour and 23 minutes. You did not put it down because you were told to, or because you read a study, or because you made a resolution that you were going to stick to this time. You put it down because somewhere in the rhythm of this apartment, in the quality of its light, in the way each hour moves toward the next with a kind of intentionality that most hours don't have, putting the phone down at a certain point simply felt like the correct thing to do. That is the part most people miss when they hear about screen limits. They hear it as restriction, as something taken away. Japan built it as something received. Here is the mechanism. Light enters your eyes, and your brain uses it to set the internal clock, the circadian rhythm, that governs not just wakefulness and sleep, but the timing of every hormone your body produces, including cortisol, melatonin, leptin, and ghrelin. Blue light, the specific wavelength emitted by phone screens, laptops, and LED overhead lighting, is the light the brain associates with noon, with the highest point of alertness, with the signal, it is not yet time to sleep. Harvard Medical School researchers have shown that exposure to blue light in the 2 hours before sleep suppresses melatonin production by up to 3 hours, not delays it by a few minutes, suppresses it by 3 hours. The person who scrolls until midnight and then wonders why they can't fall asleep at midnight is not suffering from insomnia. They have told their own brain, in the clearest biological language available, that it is still noon. And here is the compounding effect no one talks about. Because melatonin does not just govern sleep onset, melatonin is the precursor hormone that allows the body to descend into deep, restorative sleep, the sleep during which cortisol is regulated, growth hormone is released, and the amygdala processes the emotional residue of the day. Without sufficient melatonin, the body sleeps, but it sleeps shallow. It does not complete the architecture. It does not calibrate the morning. In this apartment, the phone goes in another room 90 minutes before sleep. Not because the phone is forbidden, because melatonin is more valuable than whatever was on the screen. That is all the philosophy this habit requires. The water is exactly 40 degrees Celsius. Not hot, not the scalding temperature of a bath taken for sensation. A precise, deliberate warmth, the temperature of something that was chosen for a reason. Here is the reason. For the body to fall asleep, genuinely fall asleep, descend into the deep restorative stages rather than simply losing consciousness, core body temperature must drop by approximately 1 degree Celsius. This is not a preference. It is a biological requirement. The temperature drop is the signal. The signal triggers the cascade. The cascade produces sleep. The paradox of the ofuro is this. A warm bath raises your core body temperature. It should, by that logic, make sleep harder. But what actually happens is the opposite. The warm water draws blood to the surface of the skin. When you step out of the bath, that surface heat dissipates rapidly into the cooler air. The body, flooded with blood at the skin, loses heat faster than it would have otherwise. The core temperature drops more quickly than it would have without the bath. More completely. Research published in the journal Sleep Medicine Reviews found that a warm bath taken 1 to 2 hours before bed reduced the time it took participants to fall asleep by an average of 10 minutes, and significantly increased the proportion of slow-wave sleep they achieved. Slow-wave sleep is the deepest stage, the stage during which cortisol is regulated, during which the brain consolidates memory, the immune system repairs tissue, and the hormonal systems of the body reset. You are not in this water for relaxation. You are in it for chemistry. The 21 minutes pass the way 21 minutes rarely pass. Not like waiting, not like a task being completed, but like something being given back. The steam has done whatever steam does to the muscles around the eyes. The warmth has moved from the surface of the skin to somewhere beneath it. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, the alarm that cortisol feeds and is fed by, has been doing something for the past 20 minutes that it almost never gets to do. Nothing. You step out. The air is cooler than the water. The body does what the body does. And somewhere in the hormonal cascade that follows, a cortisol curve that was going to be sharper tomorrow morning quietly adjusts itself. There is no word in English for what this apartment is doing right now. The closest translation is evening stillness. Yoru no shizukesa, not silence. The city outside is not silent, not emptiness. The apartment is lived in, occupied, full of the evidence of a life being genuinely used. Something else. The quality that a room takes on when the light has been chosen, rather than defaulted to. When the brightness has been lowered, not because someone forgot to turn the lights all the way up, but because someone understood something about what happens to the nervous system when the room does not ask more of the eyes than the hour requires. The overhead lights are off. There is a small lamp in the corner at knee height. There is a candle on the low table, not for ambiance, not for atmosphere, not for the photograph it might produce, for its specific quality of light, warm, flickering. The frequencies of a flame are not the frequencies of a screen. They are not the frequencies the brain associates with noon. They are the frequencies the brain has associated with night for the entire length of human history, which is the only research study that has ever run long enough to matter. Dr. Sachin Panda's research at the Salk Institute, the same work that established the importance of morning light for circadian rhythm calibration, shows with equal consistency that evening light management is the other half of the same system. Bright overhead light in the 2 hours before sleep disrupts the circadian clock in the same way that morning light failing to enter the eyes in the first hour of waking disrupts it. The body needs to see the day arrive and the day depart. When it sees neither, when the light in the room is the same at 10 p.m. as it is at 2 p.m., the clock drifts. And a drifting clock produces elevated evening cortisol, delayed melatonin, fragmented sleep, and a sharp and difficult morning. This apartment dims at 8 p.m., not dramatically, not as a performance of wellness. Simply because the light outside dims at 8 p.m. and the light inside follows it, and somewhere in that following is the oldest sleep hygiene practice in human history. You are sitting with the candle. You are not doing anything productive. You are not reviewing your day, or planning tomorrow, or consuming content, or maintaining a relationship via a screen. You are simply occupying an evening the way evenings were built to be occupied, with enough light to see, and not enough to mistake for the middle of the day. It takes 3 minutes. That is all it has ever taken. 3 minutes, done once, that determines the entire quality of the first 5 minutes of tomorrow morning. The 5 minutes that determine the quality of the first hour, and the first hour that determines the arc of everything that follows. You fill the glass, not cold water from the tap at 6 a.m., while your eyes are still half closed, while your nervous system is still deciding what the day is, while the cortisol is still deciding how high to go. The glass filled now, while you are still present and clear, and placed on the counter where tomorrow's you will find it before finding anything else. The lemon is already cut and covered. The small dish of salt is already beside it. The window latch is set to allow a small amount of cool air tomorrow morning. The shoes are beside the door, not scattered. The walk, the sanpo, already decided not as a plan but as an infrastructure. The way a path is infrastructure. You don't decide to use it, you simply notice it is there. This is a concept woven through Japanese domestic culture that most Westerners encounter through the lens of tidiness and mistake for aesthetics. It is not aesthetics. It is the removal of decisions from the morning by making them the night before. Every object placed tonight is a conversation with tomorrow's self, a message sent backward in time that says, I thought of you. I made this easier. You don't need to figure this out. It's already been done. The cognitive load research is consistent and decades old. The more decisions a person is required to make in the first 30 minutes of waking, the higher the cortisol response, the lower the executive function, and the more likely the first choice of the day will be reactive rather than intentional. The glass on the counter is not a glass of water. It is a decision that has been removed, a small piece of the morning's cognitive load, paid for tonight, so tomorrow's cortisol does not have to pay for it. 3 minutes, done. The morning has already become easier, and it has not yet started. The last habit has no action attached to it. There is nothing to do, no supplement to take, no routine to perform, no app to open, no technique to execute. There is only a period of time, 20 minutes, at most 30, between the last task of the evening and the moment of lying down to sleep. A gap, deliberate, held open. Ma. You already know this word. You encountered it in the morning, in the space between waking and coffee, in the deliberate pause that allows the adenosine to clear and the nervous system to arrive at itself. It applies here with equal precision. The mind that goes directly from stimulation to sleep, from screen to pillow, from problem to pillow, from social media to pillow, does not sleep the way the mind that was given 20 minutes of nothing first sleeps. The research on sleep onset latency is unambiguous on this point. A transitional period of low stimulation between the last active engagement of the day and the moment of lying down reduces time to fall asleep, reduces the number of nighttime awakenings, and significantly increases slow-wave sleep. This is not reading. Reading, even quiet reading, engages the prefrontal cortex in ways that maintain a degree of activation. This is not stretching, not journaling, not a breathing exercise, not because those things are wrong, but because they are still things. This is the practice of the non-thing. The gap between day and night that acknowledges both without being either. You are sitting in a room that is almost dark. The candle has been extinguished. There is enough light from the hallway to see by. You are not doing anything. You are not preparing yourself for sleep. You are not trying to sleep. You are simply occupying the 20 minutes between this day and the next, the way a door occupies the space between two rooms, belonging to neither, making both possible. And somewhere in your brain, a structure called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master clock of the circadian system, the seat of the melatonin cascade, the governor of the cortisol curve that will arrive tomorrow morning, is receiving a signal it has been waiting for all evening. The day is over. The night can begin. You have been trying to fix your mornings for 6 months. You have been fixing the wrong end. The morning that drops your shoulders the moment you walk into your kitchen does not begin at 5:51 a.m. It begins at 9 p.m. It begins in the quality of the light you allow into the room. It begins in the temperature of the water. It begins in the phone that went into the other room 90 minutes before you needed to sleep. It begins in the 3 minutes you spent talking to tomorrow's self through a glass of water on a counter. It begins in the 20 minutes you gave the mind to come down from the day before, asking it to leave it entirely. 5 decisions, not 5 disciplines, not 5 sacrifices. 5 small acts of care for a person who doesn't exist yet. The person you will be at 5:51 tomorrow morning, who will open their eyes to a cortisol curve that has already been written, and who will find that the morning asks less of them than yesterday's morning did. Here is what tonight looks like. At some point in the next 2 hours, put the phone in another room. Not across the bedroom, another room. Give it a home that is not yours while you sleep. Dim the light. If you have a lamp, use the lamp. If you have a candle, use the candle. If all you have is the overhead and a hallway light, use the hallway light. Any light that is warmer and lower than what you have been defaulting to is already a message to your melatonin system. If you have time, run a warm bath. Not long. 20 minutes is more than enough. Sit in it without your phone. Without music if you can bear it. Just the water, the temperature, the steam, and the 21 minutes it takes to shift the chemistry of what tonight's sleep will give tomorrow's morning. Fill the glass before you go to bed. Put the lemon beside it. Put the salt in its dish. Whatever tomorrow morning requires, do it tonight, quietly, without announcement. And before you lie down, sit for 20 minutes in a room that is almost dark and does nothing in particular. Do not meditate. Do not perform relaxation. Simply exist in the space between the day that is ending and the night that is beginning. Let the clock turn without your help. That is all. The woman in Kyoto has never called any of this a sleep routine. She has never described it as self-care or wellness or a protocol. She does not have a word for it, because in her life it has never needed one. It is simply what an evening is. And the morning, the one you have been trying to reach by fixing the wrong end of the night, is waiting on the other side of it. Tonight, dim the light. Tomorrow morning, you will feel the difference before you understand it. And then, slowly, you will understand why you felt it. That is how a morning starts, not at 6 a.m., Now, share this with someone who has been working on their mornings and wondering why it still isn't working. The answer is probably in their evenings.